Welcome back to WRPL, All Things Consumed. This is part 2 of episode 8. We ran a little long, so we figured we'd break this into 2 sections in case you didn't want to listen to an extremely long podcast. How you doing, Steve?
I'm doing good. A lot's changed in the past 10 minutes, but we'll get into that another time.
Yeah.
I'm a different man than I was.
So, funny thing happened to me today. I was taking the trash out and walking
How trashy was it?
A bag and a box.
Oh, okay.
So I'm walking to the dumpster, and there's these kids playing, and...
I hate kids.
I know. And especially in my neighborhood, they're just so loud. And one kid, I guess, saw me, and for those who can't see me right now, I'm wearing a Simpsons shirt. It's a Treehouse of Horror-inspired shirt where the family is sitting on the couch as skeletons. So this kid sees me and goes, "Man, this guy wearing a Simpsons shirt in 2021? Shake my head." It's like, hey, fuck you, man.
Did you say anything to him?
No, he was far enough away that like I'm walking and he's just like, wait, I'm wearing a Simpsons shirt. He's talking about me. What am I going to do? Fight him over his shirt? These
Gen Zers. Would they be Gen Z? I don't know what a Gen Z is, to be honest. How old do you...
I would say they were probably 11.
11? Oh, well.
Yeah. All right, so part 2.
Simpsons aren't cool anymore?
Yeah.
That's a shame.
I know. So part 2 of this episode, we're going to go through season 5 of Rick and Morty, kind of like we did with Dave. Just going to go through episode by episode and talk about the things that we like about this show that is just a very fantastic show.
Despite what some toxic fans may think about certain episodes.
It definitely has one of the worst fan bases out there for the diehard fans. They're insufferable with their, you need to have a high IQ to understand what's going on. Like, no, you don't. It's like sometimes they do say things pretty quickly and it sounds smart enough, so you just roll with it, but you don't need like high education to get these episodes.
Yeah, someone might not know what a Deus Ex Machina is that they might reference, but it doesn't. The context is there to. It's still funny.
Yeah, it's Deus Machina.
Shut up.
All right. So overall thoughts. How did you feel about this season compared to others?
It might be the weakest season.
Agreed.
But even as the weakest season, I still liked every episode. Every episode, I think, has good stuff in it to where I would say even in its worst episode is better than plenty of other television I've seen this year.
Yeah, I would say half of this season is very good. A fourth of it is fine, and a fourth of it is not good. Mm-hmm. According to IMDb, this has the 2 lowest rated episodes in the entire series. Most of them don't go lower than 7s. Most of them are 8s and 9s.
Right.
But we have one that's a 5.6 and a... Oh, actually, there's 3 of them. I'm sorry. Oh, no, there's 4. Oh, man. It has... Okay, well, I guess these 2 are a little over 7. They're like low 7s. And then we have one that's in the... is a 5.6 and one is a 6.4. So, maybe not the most popular season, but I think one of the great things about this is the last 3 episodes we get a ton of information dump and a lot of canonical backstory.
I really, really like the finale.
It was very good. We finally get to not only get some resolutions on things we've wondered from season 1, but it really opens up the doors for what future seasons can be. So let's start at the first one. Mort Dinner Rick Andre. This is Rick and Morty accidentally end up in the ocean, and they have to deal with with Rick's mortal enemy,
Mr. Nimbus.
Mr. Nimbus, a Aquaman type character with a very tiny
I think he's more of a Namor type.
Yeah, he's more Namor the Submariner for sure. But he's an underwater king of an underwater kingdom. He wears a tiny little Speedo, and he has multiple capes, and This was a very funny start to the season, and I like the Mr. Nimbus stuff, but the real story of this is when Morty has to go into this other dimension where they're keeping this wine. They could put it in there and then come back just a few minutes later, and years have passed, so the wine ages.
Which is a great concept for aging wine.
Absolutely. And
I feel like that would have been an episode of itself, but it's weird that that's the B storyline.
The Morty stuff is the B storyline?
Okay. Sure,
is
yes.
the B storyline.
I just mean, like, I could see it being a whole Rick and Morty adventure kind of thing. Like, this is the kind of thing, Rick made Morty do this whole elaborate scheme just so he could get wine faster, kind of thing.
So, yeah, Morty has to go into another dimension to get this wine. He meets these weird cow dog people. I don't know what they are.
Yeah, I'd say blue dog people.
Yeah. Like the main guy, he comes across his name Hoovy, and Hoovy helps him bring some wine over into our world, but then when he passes back, years have passed, his pregnant wife is now dead, his son is, in his 20s and exacts revenge and kills Hoovy, and every time Morty has to jump back, we've leapt forward in time 20, 50, 100 years, and they have kind of built their society around stopping this evil boy from another dimension. And every time he goes, he leaves behind some tech, and then they're able to build up on that. And there's this just whole side story of learning occult magic and figuring out if this portal boy is a fake thing, like
or if it's just a myth,
a myth, or if it's an actual legend. And this is the first time, many times in this season, where Morty goes apeshit and beats the shit out of people. Like, he really has a lot of growth in this season, because before he would just be kind of the helpless sidekick, but he goes off and murders people no problem without the help of Rick. It's a very fun start.
Yeah, I'll say as the seasons go on, like, there's episodes that Rick obviously has either some kind of epiphany, or he has some sort of breakdown, and it's separate from this all-powerful, all-knowing being. But really, Rick doesn't change as drastically as other characters. Like, it's fun seeing a cartoon show which is so episodic, and they even in the episodes kind of mention, like, we need to go back to more episodic adventures. But, like, a lot of the characters from the first season are now vastly different people, with the exception of, like, Jerry's always Jerry. But these characters are changing and growing, especially Morty more than anyone. And it's interesting to see this character who I think would have been so easy to go, like, Morty is so annoying, he's such a doofus. Like, I don't really like Morty, except for his balance with Rick. But now it's like, as Morty's gotten older, or as the series has gone on, it's like, Morty's his own character, and pretty interesting, more so now than he was, and I like that.
Absolutely. All right. I don't want to spend tons of time on every episode, because, like, what we have 10? Yeah, 10, and we did 10 minutes on each. That's an hour and 40 minutes.
Fair enough.
Some of them we could probably skip pretty quick. All right, episode 2 is Mortyplicity. This was probably one of my favorite episodes of the season. It is very reminiscent of the Parasite episode, where you take a simple concept of, what if we have duplicates of ourselves, and the duplicates start making duplicates who start making duplicates, and you just take that tiny idea and you expand it into crazy territories, where you have a Rick making a not-so-good Rick, who makes, like, a robot Rick, which makes, like, a scarecrow Rick, who makes a puppet Rick. It's ridiculous. Like, every version of the duplicate gets a little crappier in quality as it goes.
And all these duplicates were designed for the sole purpose of, this is a decoy family that will die, and when they die, they will alert me so I know someone's coming after us. But each duplicate thinks that they're the original, so then it just becomes a duplicate murder spree, all to get back to who's the original.
And we find out at the end, the original wasn't even on planet at that time. They were just off planet doing a fun adventure. Were they with someone?
I don't remember.
Yeah.
But the joke I really love in this episode is it cuts to Puppet versions of them, and then you're just like, oh, that family's dead now. Looks like we're okay, and they take off their hat or they take off their helmets or whatever, and it's just
a
regular family in puppet costume. Yeah. I was like, oh, that's clever.
Because they figured like if they were so cute, nobody would want to kill them.
Yeah.
Very, very good episode. I like this. It's not a super deep episode, but if you were to ever play a Rick and Morty drinking game, drink every time they say duplicate. It's you're going to drink a lot in 1/2 hour.
And I think this is one of those episodes that's closer to old Rick and Morty episodes that are episodic. And I like that it included the whole family versus, separate storylines. It was all about keeping everybody together.
Yes, absolutely. Third episode, A Rick Convenient Mort. So Morty falls for Planetina, voiced by Alison Brie.
Who we're big fans of here.
Yeah, big fans of Alison.
Watch Glow on Netflix.
And Community on, I guess it's on Netflix as well right now?
Netflix, and I think it's on Hulu as well. Community is one of the greatest shows ever. Glow's fantastic.
Absolutely.
Shouldn't have been canceled.
At least give them a movie to top it off.
It needed one more thing to wrap up. Movie or season.
And they were filming at the time. They had like one episode in the bag when COVID hit. And then it was just like, nah, we're not going back to it.
Fuck you, COVID.
Yeah, fuck you. So Morty falls in love with this Captain Planet type character who has been kind of put into servitude by the Planeteers, and they've all grown up, and they use her for conventions and
fame,
and they're gonna sell her to like a Middle Eastern sheik or something.
Yeah, I think they were like getting merchandise rights and stuff. Like I think there was like maybe action figures of her, and she was like making appearances, and that's how they're getting money. And then they were just going to sell her off because maybe she wasn't as profitable as when they were younger. I don't really know.
Yeah.
But
Morty is threatened by the fire ring guy because it's like, you're going to corrupt her and she's our cash cow. And Morty like bites his finger off, gets the power ring, and just burns him to death.
Yeah, I get wanting to fight back with the power, like, because you're in love with this girl. And it's the first girl you've ever loved, except for maybe Jessica, I guess. And I get
and all the tons of women Morty has hooked up through the seasons because he's had a lot of girlfriends.
Fair enough, and I get that this guy was trying to murder you, so you murder him. And that's fine. We've seen Morty kill people. That's not the problem. It's like he went and just murders everyone else viciously.
Yeah,
and
takes the wind girl and puts the ring in her mouth and just says dirt, and all this dirt fills her head and blows her up. It's really extra violent.
Yeah, melts people with the fire ring. And does he do anything with the other ones? It doesn't matter.
Yeah, he kills them all.
Yeah, all in the name of love.
Yeah, and then they kind of have their relationship together. Beth isn't appreciative of it, and
she sees this relationship going sideways.
Yep, which of course it does, because now that she is free, she doesn't have her handlers to say what things...
essentially what missions she should go on.
On what missions she should partake, and she just starts wrecking shit and collapsing mines and burning oil fields and just killing anybody who does anything remotely harmful. And Morty sees, this isn't going to really work out, and they have to break up. And he has a nice little moment with his mom where, crying over the loss of love. And, of course, Beth was right about it because she understands what being in kind of a shitty, toxic relationship is like.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. All right, episode 4, Rick Dependent Spray. This is the lowest rated episode of Rick and Morty, and I understand why people don't like it. It's a little gross, and it almost feels like fan fiction, where someone just said, oh, what if we had them fighting giant sperm and underground horse people? That's a Rick and Morty thing. That's weird, right? And it just seems so kind of half-baked ideas. So the basic premise of this is Morty finds his mom's horse
jack-off machine.
Yeah, horse jack-off machine, and he realizes I can also use this. And so we see him just
2 weeks later,
drinking OJ and relaxing in his robe, because he's it was very much like when he got the sex robot,
mm-hmm.
and he runs downstairs and drinks a glass of juice and goes back up to start banging the sex robot. So, but then Rick wants to take the semen from it and create something to fight the
underground horse people.
Yeah, does he call them Morlocks? Or no, he calls them Chuds.
Chuds, yes.
Yeah. But because it has Morty's DNA mixed in, he creates giant sperm.
Monsters.
Just sperm with teeth that are flying around, killing people. It's pretty gross.
But I think the thing that makes, well, at least from what I saw online, the thing that made people really upset wasn't so much the sperm thing. It was Summers gives an egg to gives the government one of her eggs to attract all the sperm so they could like destroy them all at once. Mm-hmm. But in fact, that egg gets impregnated by Morty's super sperm, and so now we have a giant incest baby.
Yeah, because they can't terminate it because it was born in America and now it's a person.
Which is a funny joke.
Yeah.
But everyone didn't like the idea of this brother-sister thing. It's like, it's cool in Game of Thrones, but when Rick and Morty does it, it's gross.
And but there's already been a precedent for it. There was in, I think, the second or third episode with Scary Terry, and they're going into the dreams, and there's like Mr. Goldenfold had a fake Summer in there, that like they hug and he gets grossed out about it, and then we have another one where a different version of Morty wishes incest porn was more of a thing, which became true. He got his wish. So there is a precedent for it.
Yeah, I mean,
but it is gross.
But for sure, is this like precedent just the writers of the show thinking like Summer is hot, or is it just like, oh well, we've established that like Rick kind of thinks Summer's hot, like not that he would ever do anything sexual with her. It's just, are they just playing into this? Like, what was the end game there? I guess it's like, where is this? Why choose this storyline?
Yeah, was it only so you could have the giant incest baby 3 episodes later in the GoBots episode?
That's right.
This is like one of the only seasons where that isn't just a reference to a thing that happened in the past. A thing that happened actually comes back up again, besides the recurring characters like Bird Person or whatever. But was that couldn't have been like damage control, because these episodes take forever to write and animate and everything. So even if there was blowback on the internet, that episode, this was episode 4, and then episode 7 is when the incest baby comes back. There was no way they would have been able to completely change that.
Yeah, it almost feels like they wrote this episode on purpose because they knew it would, like, they knew this thing would be polarizing. And so here's a couple episodes later where they sort of, not necessarily fix it, but like resolve it. Yeah. But if you're just looking at it as a singular episode, it seems like, let's just throw as much crazy shit at the wall, and this is the episode that we come up with. It's like the South Park where they talk about the Family Guy writers. It's like, oh, this thing, and this thing from the manatees.
The manatees.
Yeah. And then that's our episode. It feels like that's kind of what they did. Now, I don't hate this episode like everyone else did.
It's one of my least favorites of this season.
Sure. Mine too.
But not the worst.
I wouldn't say it's a particularly bad episode of television.
Yeah. And going back to the precedent of weird incest stuff, in the Doofus Rick episode, you have all these Rick showing up to whatever the hell they were doing in that episode. But there's a point where Beth comes in and is just like, who wants lemonade? And like, oh, you're so much better than my Beth, and more attractive too. And it's like, this Rick is hitting on his own daughter, like regardless of different dimensions or not. This one is legitimately attracted to his own daughter.
Weird.
Yeah. All right, let's go to episode 5.
Real quick, just with that episode, return of Keith David as the president. Always happy to see Keith David.
Yes, but he shows up way too much in this season, and he, by episode 6, I think he overstays his welcome. Yeah. And if we don't have that character again, I'd be fine. Maybe it's time for a new president. He was just overused. He's one of my least favorite side characters.
Okay.
Now, before this season, I was perfectly fine with him, but he shows up, I think, 3 times in this season. Okay. Episode 5. A Mortycan grik. God, that's hard to say. A Mortycan grik. This is... Rick has a debt to a bunch of Hellraiser Cenobite type characters, and they don't feed off of like fear or pain. They feed off of cringe. And who's the cringiest person? It's Jerry. And Jerry thinks all these weird demon things want to hang out with him because he's so cool, but no, they're just feeding off of him. And Beth finds out, isn't very happy about it, but once she starts drinking their weird hell wine, she kind of
just joins
in and mocks him as well. Jerry does find out, and they take him to hell, and they have to kind of put on these funny disguises to go rescue him. And I really like the bit where it's just like, oh, we're trying to get in here. Oh, we can't let you in. Oh, are you rejecting me from going in? That brings me pain, which brings me joy. And if it brings me joy, that must bring you pain. And it's like all these like double, triple negatives to try to confuse these people. And it's really funny. And then they create a gun that makes legitimate pain, and they actually get to feel what pain feels like. It's a pretty fun episode.
Yeah, I like the designs of all the... What'd you call them?
Cenobites.
Yeah. Sound
not like the bites from Taco Bell, not the cinnamon bites, but Cenobites.
Yeah, those guys all looked really fun, and I'm always happy to see any show that's like willing to go to some hell or version of some sort of demon world, because I think those are always fun to see how people interpret those kind of things. Yeah. And then the other storyline in that is Summer and Morty trying to impress the new cool kid at school by taking him out in the spaceship.
Yeah. Another nice return from the sentient space car from the...
Keep Summer safe.
Yeah. What is that episode? I don't want to say what is it called because they all have stupid names, but the the Miniverse and the Tinyverse. Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Where they go inside the battery, yes.
Yeah. And so it was nice having this sassy car, which also I think is the same as the sassy garage. It kind of seems like it's the same AI. I know it's voiced by the same person.
Oh, okay.
Who, we'll get to it, but the person who does the voice of the sassy garage and car is the one that does the voice for Rick's dead wife. So that it could be like her consciousness, maybe.
That could be cool.
Yeah. Anywho, they go and try to impress him by, taking him to weird dimensions, like one with sentient mailboxes that they hit with baseball bats, and they go to a Transformers world where they're kind of disgusted that the car is just a car and not a changeobot or whatever they're called.
Yeah, because she met him on a dating app kind of thing or something, or how'd they get in contact?
They were just at like a ski lodge, just hanging out, and was it a club? I can't remember. Oh no, they were just at like a gas station, like a burger joint or something.
Right. And he's just like, meet up with me later kind of thing.
Yeah. And then they go to the ski lodge and she dresses up like a Transformer type thing, and then they realize like she's just a car, and it makes one of them like throw up. I guess it'd be like sleeping with an animal or something like that. Mm-hmm. But then she goes nuts and
kills all the Transformers.
Yeah, and she just wants to have fun, and she even does like a fishing thing where she fishes for like a Galactus type character. She's like dragging a sun, and then they just murder him, and this car is just hell-bent on having fun.
All to impress this stupid kid named Bruce?
No.
Bruce.
Bruce? Doesn't he have a weird last name too?
I don't remember.
Yeah.
At least according to Wikipedia, his name's Bruce. Yeah. But
he even gets a little like theme song when he shows up.
But he's a total douchebag, and
not really. He just doesn't care. He's not like rude to them or anything. He's just kind of just like whatever, man. And they're like Morty and Summer are more the douchebags because they're willing to do anything to impress him, and he just is kind of non-affected by any of it.
I do like that they kind of made a joke of, or you weren't quite sure if they were gonna sell Bruce out to the cops when they get arrested, because they're just like, well, we barely know this guy, like, fuck him. Let's just blame it on him. I was like, of course that would be what the grandchildren of Rick would do.
But then they're like,
no, we can't leave him.
They just blow a hole in the wall.
Yeah, and the spaceship saves them, and they go back home, and then I think he's just like, well, this was a lot of fun, but I just don't think we're gonna vibe together or something like that, and he just leaves, and they're just like, fuck that guy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then the like after credit scene is they're just like, oh hey, didn't you wear those pants yesterday? And then he gets ostracized because he wore the same pants 2 days in a row. Fun episode. I like that one a lot.
Has that kind of thing ever happened to you where like you've worn the same clothes as someone at school, or like you wore the same shirt and someone noticed? And
no, I mean, I was a kid that I really only had like 7 shirts that I wanted to wear. So, and like 3 of them were like Witchblade comic book t-shirts.
Okay.
So there could be a day in a week where I would have 3 comic book shirts that I would wear. And nobody ever said anything to me, but I realized, I was like, man, I've worn this shirt a lot in my life here. I don't have a lot of clothes. Everyone probably just sees me as the guy with the weird big boob comic book lady on his shirt.
There's twice in my life that I've worn the same shirt as someone else at a thing, and it's always been like a huge fucking deal for some reason. The first time was in high school, where, I mean, we're all kids going to the same high school. We all shop at the same fucking place. So me and this kid who was in my class had this same like brown and orange striped shirt, and we always sat next to each other at lunch. So what, like, I didn't know he had this shirt, and we just happened to wear it on the same day. And so I remember like being in lunch just talking to him, and like we just think it's kind of funny that we both wear the same shirt. And then some guy walks by, like, hey, are you guys in a relationship? Are you guys gay with each other? And then like me being the shy person I was, like, I didn't know how to respond to bullies, so I didn't say anything. But the guy who was next to me was just like, yeah, man, this is my boyfriend. What of it? And the dude was just like, all right, whatever, and just like walked away. And he's just like, just give them what they want, man. Like, they just, and like that's where I learned to just like, oh, just kind of lean into the joke, and then it's already like you can't be used against you. And so I was like, oh, what a nice lesson I learned today. And the other time I went to a party, this was like when I was 21, 22, and I walked in, and the second I walked in, there was another dude who was wearing the exact same shirt as me. We looked at each other, and then everybody at the party like was cackling, laughing. And this guy left to change his fucking shirt because he refused to wear the same shirt as me. I mean, this guy was like a good-looking bro type. Like, he deserved to wear that shirt.
Sure.
But because I was the fucking dork who wore the shirt, he's like, I can't wear this shit anymore. And he left to go change.
Because even if you change, they know that this dorky kid has the same shirt as him, and that's not cool.
Yeah. So I don't wear shirts anymore.
All right. Episode 6, Rick and Morty, the Exploitation Spectacular. This is my least favorite episode of the series. I think this is not funny. It's once again has the president who overstays his welcome, and just, I mean, the idea of Rick turning into a turkey so he can be pardoned
I love
is
that idea.
funny.
Oh, yeah.
But the fact that it's like this is the 5th time they've tried to do it.
At least 5.
They
might have done more.
It's just like, oh, okay, well, I'd rather see that story of them going through the first time than just, here's Rick, the smartest man in the universe, doing the same bit again. Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's just not very interesting. Just weird turkey people coming alive, and then you have weird alien versus predator pilgrim and aliens at the end that help save the day. It's
very reminiscent of the Incest Baby episode, only in that it seems like there was a lot of ideas that just they threw together to make just a crazy episode. And it is a crazy episode, but I like this one more than you do, because I like the turkey pardon bit, and I think it is fun seeing them in turkey bodies and doing crazy stuff with that. And I thought actually that the fact that the first Thanksgiving was 2 alien Aztec sort of races where they look like pilgrims and Native Americans, I just thought that bit was fun. Like, it was crazy and ridiculous, and it's not the strongest episode story-wise by any means, but I think it was what the Incest Baby episode was trying to do, was just like, it's so crazy and ridiculous that it's fun. I think this one succeeds more than that one. In my opinion. Maybe I just like that it, like, if it was a bunch of random stuff like the Incest Baby one, I'd be like, okay, well, it's just a carbon copy of this. But because it's a Thanksgiving theme, and it's all, because it has that cohesion between these ancient alien pilgrim warriors and these turkey monsters, I think it just works a little bit better.
Okay, yeah, I just couldn't find myself to really laugh at much of this one. So let's move on. I don't want to talk about this shit anymore. Episode 7 is Gotron Jarrett. Gotron Jarrett Rick Vangelion. Oh my god. Gotron Jarrett Rick Vangelion. I should really read these in advance and prep myself. This is the like second lowest rated one of the season, and I'm kind of surprised that the turkey episode is higher than this, because I thought this was kind of a fun episode.
I like this episode.
Rick getting obsessed with getting a Gotron, which are like Voltrons, but instead of lions, they're ferrets. And then getting more families of Gotrons to make even bigger Gotrons. And then you have this subplot of Summer kind of taking the lead in the family instead of Morty. And you have these Goodfellas, Godfather type figures. You know, the different Rick families are stereotyped after mob bosses. You get a re-reference to the incest baby in this one, where like, can we really trust these people? This is the dimension that made the incest baby. It's a fun callback. I don't know, how does this one end? Oh yeah, incest baby destroys the Gotron.
Yeah, they have a big fight. Yeah. Because some like anime characters are out of a job because they got their Gotrons stolen. Which I like the anime characters only because I always enjoy seeing different cartoon styles in other cartoons. Yeah. It's always fun to me.
Absolutely. Yeah, not much to say about this one. I really liked, like, they have internal monologues, and both Summer and Morty can kind of hear each other doing their internal monologues, but for some reason, like, Summer is not aware.
They're called the voice-overians.
Voice-overians.
Yeah, which is what causes them to hear each other's thoughts.
Yeah, they're just a parasitic insect inside both their heads, and episode ends with just Rick shooting him.
But what I liked best about this episode was it showed that the only person who can really, not necessarily keep him in check, but keep Rick
from going off the rails
is Morty. Mm-hmm. Summer thought she could handle it, and Morty kept telling her, "You can't do this." And it was nice to see that sort of that character work, because I always like seeing Summer joining their adventures, but she can sometimes be so overconfident and just like, "Fuck you, Morty, like, who cares?" And it's like, no, like, there's a reason Morty is with Rick, is because they work together. Even if they're both bad for each other, Rick's worse without Morty, and then Summer just can't handle it. And I like that part of it.
Absolutely. And I really like that Summer has become a character of her own through all these seasons. It would have been really easy for them to write her off as just the annoying older sister, but she's really funny, and most of the time when she has her own story, she really does shine.
It was this season where I think it was in a previous episode, but I guess the B story was, isn't this the season where Rick and Summer go on a fuck spree?
Oh yeah,
how did we miss that?
That's the a Rick Convenient Mort, when Morty's in love with Planetina. Right. Both Rick and Summer are kind of upset that they are losers in love, and they decide to do this triple party thing where one planet is going into a black hole, one's sun is going supernova, and
an
asteroid's going to hit the other one. And it's like, we could hit each of these. All these planets have kind of accepted their fate, and they're just having like these huge parties, and they're just going to like go nuts and eat ass, and no long-term connections, just random hookups. But then Rick finds an alien with weird boobs on her elbows and falls for her. But she was just kind of using him to get off planet.
Yeah. But what's funny about it is there's like that kind of relationship where you're both like, okay, this is what we both want. We're willing, like, I kind of like that in the sense of like, oh, here's two people who need this thing, and they're willing, and their family, and they're willing to help each other out. But at the same time, it's like, I don't know about a relationship where it's like, oh yeah, me and my grandpa, we go trolling for tail together. It's like, wait, what?
Yeah.
And it just seems like both, like, it's a weird relationship, but I also kind of respect how like respectful they are of, it's like, okay, you want to get laid? I want to get laid. Let's go fucking party. We'll help each other get laid.
Yeah, it's not like they're sleeping with each other.
No, yeah, it's not like gross within them. It's just like, I don't know if there's any member of my family that's like, hey, let's go find some people to fuck tonight.
Yeah.
I don't want to like
No.
like if my dad just got newly single or something like that, it's like, hey dad, you want to go to the bar? I don't want to see my dad like pick out women. Ew.
Yeah, I would definitely, like, if one of my parents died and the other one was trying to get out there, which they shouldn't. They're in their 70s. They're old as fuck. Don't be looking for anything new, mom and dad. Sorry, I called you old as fuck, but you're not gonna listen to this. I would definitely help them. It's like, let's set up a dating profile and things like that, but not like, we're gonna get you laid, mom.
Yeah. The only thing that's separated, because like Rick is having sex in the spaceship, I think, with her
while she's driving.
While Summer's driving.
Yeah.
It's like, I don't want. Ew.
Yeah,
that's the last thing I want.
Yeah, that's gross.
Anyway, moving on.
All right. So the last 3 episodes are kind of a little trilogy of. We learn about Bird Person. We learn about Rick's past, and how much Morty does and does not mean to him, and we get a return of evil Morty. So we'll do this one at a time. In episode 8, Rick-ternal Friendship of the Spotless Mort. This is Rick trying to go into Bird Person's brain and bring him back, because all the weird coding that Tammy did to him has made him an evil monster.
Phoenix person.
And
he wants Bird Person
back. So he's going into his mind, into their past, and we get to see how they meet at a party where Rick was just had some drugs that he's passing out to everyone, and how they had a bond and fought at Blood Ridge, which had been mentioned in when Bird Person is killed, and I think that's the end of season 2, where that's where Rick says, like, that's where Bird Person had his moment of glory, was on Blood Ridge. We get to see that fight with Squanchy, and a funny bit from that is we always thought Gearface was one of Rick's friends, maybe a friend that he doesn't love, but he's only friends with Gearface because Gearface's older brother was part of their crew and died at Blood Ridge,
and so they
kind of feel bad and put up with him. So he does kind of save him, brings him back to reality, and Bird Person's just kind of like, thanks, but I think we need to spend some time apart, and he really kind of has to figure himself out.
We find Bird Person has a daughter.
Oh yeah, Bird Person and Tammy has a daughter, and she's a little psycho and is in like a prison, a Grothelmite prison, and that'll be cool to see in the future. Who knows? But she's really weird looking, but that makes sense when you're mixing a Bird Person and a
regular
human.
Person. Yeah, but this episode was a lot of. This is the kind of thing that I think you want from a Rick and Morty episode. Mm-hmm. You want heart and backstory and comedy, and cool concept, and it just wove all those things together in a real satisfying way, I thought.
Yeah, jumping around from different memories, and Rick even teams up with a younger version of himself that just thinks like all the terrible things that happened to Rick are just so cool. It's like, oh, we get our own Vietnam? That's awesome. And, I think he sacrifices himself at the end. It would have been nice to have kind of middle-aged Rick come back, but that's fine. And then episode 9 is Forgetting Sir Rick Mortshall, and Morty's just kind of sick of Rick's shit, like always. So he spins the wheel to see what's better than Rick, and it's like a piece of shit and half a Paul Giamatti and just all these like weird things, and he lands on 2 crows. So he captures 2 crows to be his sidekicks, and he goes on normal adventures he normally would, but he's trained 2 crows to hang out with them. And then he realizes, he misses Morty, and he's gonna send these crows to like a bird planet, which I wonder if is it a different planet than Bird Person's planet? Because it's weird. You have like sentient bird planet, and then you have like Bird Person planet.
They're two separate planets.
It's not that weird. And in the world of Rick and Morty's, I have like butt planets and talking pizza planets and stuff. And he sends them down, but they capture Rick, and it's just like,
I guess it's kind of like a Planet of the Apes, but instead of apes, they're crows.
Yeah.
And these advanced civilization of crows have technology that captures Rick, and they're like, you've taken these crows and you don't appreciate them the way they should. They're smart birds, and these civilized crows are going to take Rick's crows and put them into this thing to make them like them.
Yeah, they're going to like bump up their evolution real quick. And
then kill Rick afterwards. And that's when Morty shows up to save him. Morty's thing in this episode is he gets the portal goo on his hand.
Oh, yeah.
And he meets Nick, who also has portal goo on his leg. And so they're able to talk to each other. And Morty's like, well, okay, you clearly had dealings with Rick. How do you guys know each other? And Nick says he used to be...
he went on an adventure, and then Rick, like, abandoned him.
Yeah.
But that's not true.
And then we find out that Nick is actually in an insane asylum. And Morty's like, well, you seem normal enough. Let's get you out of here. And they break out, and so they go on adventures with each other. And Nick is doing, like, real shady deals to try and get... Oh, because their whole thing is they want more portal fluid. And so they're doing all these shady deals, and Nick's kind of, like, going off the rails and isn't, like, afraid of anybody. And Morty's like, yo, bro, like, we need to chill. This isn't cool. And he's like, no, it's cool. I got it. And then what... And this is like one of my favorite things that Rick and Morty is like famous for, is like using their science in cool ways, and how like they're willing to like, he'll shoot the gun into his portal hand so it'll like come out his leg or whatever they did.
Shoots himself in the leg.
So Morty's hand then shoots the guys in front of him. It's a real fun use of the portal system.
Yeah.
In a real dumb way because it's on people's body parts.
When they're breaking him out of the hospital, like, Morty puts his hand on a guard's mouth, and Nick pours, like, what are they called? The...
bedpans?
Bedpans into his leg and just, like, fills this dude's mouth with shit. It's disgusting. But it's a pretty funny use of that. But... Did you have something? I was gonna...
No, I mean, that was... Morty realizes, like, this guy isn't good, and... Nick is about to kill Morty, but then Morty pulls...
No, he lets his hand get run over by a train.
Yes.
Then drops his hand into Nick's leg, which causes like an Ouroboros sort of snake eating its own tail thing, and he just gets sucked in.
Which was also cool and crazy that... I mean, anyone who's willing to chop off their own hand is... That's nuts.
And then Rick just has a machine, like he always does, that will just, like, print him a new hand.
Because clearly this thing has happened. This kind of thing
before. Because he even says, it's like, do you want to do the really big one like last time? And it's like, what was Morty doing with a big hand? It's like, I know he had that big arm in that one season, but I don't know.
It's just an adventure we've never seen.
Yeah.
And I think they even flipped through some of them. I think one's like kind of like a chicken hand, or
one's a claw
foot or something. Yeah. So he had options. He's like, no, just my normal
regular hand.
Yeah. And Morty's like, hey man, I think he saves Rick from the crows. The crows actually
save the crows. The crows, the crows save Rick.
They don't go through with the evolution.
Yeah, they break the crystal.
Yeah, but then they still go their separate way.
Morty's kind of like, oh, let's get back to it, and Rick's just like, nah, I realize I'm not good for you. I'm a huge piece of shit. It's time for me to...
Yeah. Actually, the crows don't leave. He's like, I'm going to see how this plays out with the crows. I'm sorry.
And so he gets into their crow ship and takes off.
And that's just how the episode ends. Rick and Morty break up.
And it's really sad seeing Morty on the balcony with, like, a huge frowny face crying. And it's good stuff. Two things I want to mention about this episode. I really like the joke where he's like, Morty spilled the portal juice, and so he like fills it with Mountain Dew, and Rick is just like, did you fill my portal gun with Mountain Dew? You know how toxic that shit is? Something along those lines. And then, there's trash all over the floor, and they send out the garbage goober.
Trash, I love trash.
Yeah, he sounds like your Mr. Meeseeks or your Mr. Poopy Butthole or whatever.
Another classic Justin Roiland voice.
But that's really, really funny. I like the garbage goober.
And the post-credit scene is him arguing with his wife, going like, I know I'm going to ask Rick for promotion, And she's like, you can't be eating garbage your whole life. And he's like, you're right. And they're like, garbage goober, can you come back and eat more trash? And he just looks at his wife and is like,
yum, I like trash. Yum, trash. And so, I don't think any episode has really done this, besides maybe season finales, is episode 10, Rick, Morty, Jack. It picks up kind of right where it leaves off. Mm-hmm. Rick has really adopted his 2 crows and has adopted like the cyber bird wings from that he took off of Bird Person, and has this really cool robot horse and a dark trench coat, and he's going around kind of saving other bird people because he saves a bunch of... No, he saves regular people from owls.
From owls, yeah.
Which I thought that was... I guess they said that crows and owls are enemies.
Yeah.
But you would think he would be helping all birds. Because, whatever. Who cares?
Yeah.
And Morty shows up to try to, like, get him to come back, and he's not having it. And then he shows up again later, and it's, like, 20 years later. He's, like, 40 years old. Or, yeah, I guess, like, 24 years later. Mm-hmm. He's 40 years old, and Rick doesn't even realize that much time has passed. And he's just like, look, my dad's sick, and, you know, we really want you to come back. And when he does, he was just full of shit. He just aged himself up in some sci-fi manner. And, then they go... Yeah, so in order to fix Morty, they have to go to the Citadel of the Ricks, which is now run by President Morty, or Evil Morty. And one of my favorite jokes in this is, like, how they split him. They, like, split him into thirds and then, like, squish 2 thirds together to make his 16-year-old self, but they had, like, a 24-year-old version left over. And I was like, man, I hope 24-year-old Morty sticks around, but they just kill him off. Yeah. I think that they could have paired up young Rick that, you know, thought everything Rick did was super cool in 2 episodes ago, with 24-year-old Morty. So you have an older Morty and a younger Rick. And how would their pairing would have been? Mm-hmm. That would have been fun. But no, they just shoot him because there's crazy, like, Morlock sewer Mortys.
Yeah, things at the Citadel never seem to go well whenever Rick and Morty visit the other infinite Rick and Mortys.
Yeah. And it turns out that Evil Morty has been scanning all the Rick's brains to learn the ultimate secret, which is Rick has kind of sanctioned off all the infinite universes where he's the top being from the rest of the infinite universe, called the something curve? The infinite...
I got it right. The central finite curve.
Central finite curve. So all these universes that we have, Rick is the superior being no matter what they are. So if they go to a planet of butts, even if there's not a, like, butt planet Rick, he would still be the superior being on that planet. But there's a whole other infinite universe that we've never experienced where Rick is not the smartest person. So it's such a big world opening thing, because we knew it was infinite universes and Rick was the smartest person in all of it, but that's not true. This is just one portion of the infinite universe. So it'll be really interesting to see where this evil Morty goes and who's smarter than Rick.
Yeah, because it's interesting, like, earlier in, like, season 1 or 2, when Rick and Morty die and that becomes, like, a whole big canonical thing, is he's like, Morty, we can only do this like 5 or 6 more times. Like, saying, like, we've done it a bunch, so there's not so many more versions. But it's like, if there's infinite versions, there really should have been, like, plenty of places you could pull from. So,
but it's more of versions that are close enough to what you've already done.
Well, right. I know. So, but it's like,
pretty limited.
But if he closed off, like, there might be even more. It's just those versions
Rick is not the superior.
Yeah. So that's a real fun take on the multiverse thing. And it's so crazy that we have this big reveal with timelines, and then you have something like Loki, which opened up the Marvel world in such a way with, oh, well, here's another thing of infinite timelines where we can pull and do all these crazy adventures, and it all just works together. So it's interesting that 2 of the biggest franchises per se. I guess Rick and Morty's not making as much money as Marvel,
Sure,
obviously,
but it's doing
like,
all right.
It's a big pop culture thing right now.
Mm-hmm.
And then here's another one, and they both go like, okay, well, we're opening up our universes to infinite possibilities, even more so.
And I always had a like lingering question about, you know, in all these universes, Beth and Jerry get together because they have to have a Morty for these Ricks, and it's like, man, and when you go to the Citadel, there's a ton of them, and it's just like, wow, in all these universes, these two get together, and like, what happens in the universes where where Jerry and Beth don't get together, but there would still be a Rick because he had Beth. So what happens in those? Do those Ricks go mad not having a Morty? Or, you know, and they do show that they purposely forced a lot of Jerry's and Beth's together to make Mortys, and they clone Mortys and stuff.
And maybe they answered this in this episode and I just kind of skipped over it, but in these other universes, because pretty much every universe in this central finite curve, Rick's wife dies.
No.
Correct? No?
No. Because it's not just Rick's wife dies. His wife and Beth die. So, but in most of them, that never happened because it was one Rick that sabotaged him to get him to... Because remember, in I think it's season 4 opener, when they're watching the past, there's another Rick that comes to him and it's just like, look, I can travel dimensions and I want to pass this information on. And he's like, nah, man, I don't want that. So then that Rick kills his wife and daughter. Other Ricks and Beths just probably had normal relationships, or, you know, maybe some of them could have left or whatever, but not all of them had their wives killed.
Then how come we haven't ever seen his wife in any of the... Like, because they visit tons of universes, and it's always Jerry and Beth, and we just never see Grandma visit or them talk about Grandma.
We've only seen Jerry's parents once, so, you know, it's not like...
Yeah, but if the big thing is, like, whole big thing of Rick's backstory is just like, well, what happened to his wife? And obviously she, like, got murdered or whatever. But I was just surprised, like, we've never... If he misses this person and she exists in some realm, like, he did that for Beth. Like, he created another Beth to go be Space Beth and have the Beth at home. Like, why have we never seen...
Well, I'm sure there's plenty of Ricks whose wives did die. And those are probably the ones where Rick has taken over with Morty, you know, like when they have to hop timelines for whatever reason, they have to go into those ones, because if they went into one where she didn't die, Beth would have had a different childhood and a different outlook on Rick, so they couldn't really blend in on those ones. But I don't think all Ricks all had their wives killed.
Good. But the thing we didn't talk about is after the reveal, the whole thing that made Evil Morty was, I just am tired of this guy. And if you're tired of this guy at any point, that makes you evil too. And I kind of like that whole thing. And the episode essentially ends with evil President Morty going through his own portal, which was yellow, which I thought was a nice little touch, and go into this universe where I guess Rick doesn't exist, and he's kind of like...
Or does exist and is not a super genius.
Yeah.
Or...
And it just seems like he's at peace, and it leaves the world open for him to return.
Yeah, I mean,
or
for
them to visit them.
This is, you know, maybe all of our universes that we've seen, Rick's wife does die, and everything over there, Rick's wife doesn't die, so he doesn't...
That's what I was thinking.
Yeah, so he doesn't become a crazy scientist or whatever. Who knows?
And then we have a little Mr. Poopy Butthole tag that we've had the past couple seasons, which, like, I didn't really need.
No, it's nice that they do it once in a while, but I think they did it for 2 or 3 and 4, or 2 and 4, or 2 and 3, or 3 and 4. One of them. No, it's 2 and 3. 2, 3, 5. Yeah. The thing about the portal being yellow, I saw like a Reddit thread about different portals that we had. So like the one in episode 1 going into that time dimension, it was a purple portal. And when like going into the hell dimension was like a red portal. Going into Beth's like Fruity Land was like a pink portal. I think there's one more portal, but I can't think of it. But it's interesting. It's like portals have specific colors and reasons. And it's just yellow's now the infinite dimension. So that's cool.
Yeah. And one last thing that I would like to point out for this season is probably one of my favorite end tags is Jerry being a piece of wood that ultimately gets...
Oh, yeah.
It's so, like, sad and dark, and he, like, lives for thousands of years and becomes the cross that, like, this new Jesus gets put on, but it's like a alien or... Just evolutionary. It's a new creature, but it still creates this Christian.
Yeah, they do Christianity. They do cowboys first, then Christianity again.
But yeah, just a undying piece of Jerry wood is both funny and just horrifying.
Yeah, and there's something I want to bring up. So there's a YouTube channel called New Rockstars. They do a lot of breakdowns and stuff. I may have mentioned them on the show, or maybe it's just in our life. They've been doing like the what if episodes of things you may have missed, and they do Rick and Morty, and they're great for analyzing scene by scene, shot by shot of, oh, look at this funny thing written on the background. Oh, look, this is a beer that is referenced in this episode. Like, really in-depth, cool stuff. But in that post-credit scene, there's two people that find the wood Jerry, and it's like a woodpecker and a dolphin. And in the second season opener, when with the time that keeps like splitting, well, then the time testicle monster voiced by Keegan-Michael Key, he's talking on the phone, and he's just like, oh no, I'm forward in time. No, if you see the dolphin people, you've gone too far. And so there's a dolphin person at that end.
This show is so smart. You really need a high IQ to appreciate this show.
You really do. College level. So I recommend New Rockstars. I don't watch a ton of their stuff because I don't need everything broken down for me. But the What If episodes have been fun, and these Rick and Morty episodes have been fun as well. They're good at what they do.
Do you think, assuming we're still doing this a year or 2 years, whenever the new season of Rick and Morty come out, you want to do like a...
Episode by episode?
Episode by episode on the podcast, or you just rather do like a whole season-long thing?
Well, the thing with our format, we're trying not to make this too long, because we could easily have 4-hour episodes.
Yeah, that's
true. We ramble. And there's a lot of stuff I watch every week, and I always watch at least one thing new, and there's always new movies every weekend. Our first episode, I cut out so much stuff because we just had so many things to talk about. I think it's hard to bring up Rick and Morty every single week. So we can mention it, good, bad, whatever, but I think we should save it for episodes like this. But hey, maybe people don't want to hear us talk about Rick and Morty, because it's not like we're bringing great insight or anything. We're just recapping episodes, really.
Fair enough.
Yeah, so we'll see. I was gonna say, do you want your Walking Dead update? But I can't remember a goddamn thing that happened.
So must have been good. All right, well, you can tell me next week, or...
I think it was... I think, like...
There was zombies, people arguing, some kills... The end.
Yeah, it's like Maggie's group gets split up and everyone starts getting picked off because there's some group trying to kill them. Gabriel gets one, and they almost seem like they're hyper-religious people. And he's like, oh, we've been watching you, and I'm so glad you're going to be the one that kills me because you're the man of God. And Gabriel's just like, God's not here anymore, and like puts a machete in his head or whatever. So it's like, finally, Gabriel's kind of losing his faith. And I think everybody has kind of died. There was one guy, he was like the first defector from Negan's group when they were having their war and having open negotiations. One guy came over and was just kind of like, look, I never liked Negan. I just did it out of survival. I believe in you guys. I want to do it. I think he just recently died, or he's gonna die soon. He's like hurt pretty bad. So I think their group is now down. It's just Maggie and Negan, and they have to get to this thing, and it's like, oh, how could these two work together? They want to kill each other. So, who knows?
They're going to fuck so hard.
Oh, that'd be so awesome. But yeah, once again, I saw my DVR recording and I'm like, what the fuck is recording tonight? Oh yeah, Walking Dead!
Can't wait for that show to be over. And 8 months from now.
Yeah, you got 20 episodes to go.
Ugh.
Yeah.
Gross.
But hey, I'll give you Fear the Walking Dead updates. I'll give you Walking Dead World Beyond updates.
Just get off that franchise. I'm not talking about you specifically, but just like the world in general needs to stop with The Walking Dead. No one cares.
It'll stop soon enough. But then...
At least I don't care, and that's what's important.
Yeah. You got off at like season 3.
Yeah.
You hopped that train real early. And it's like, there was no way I was going to get off then because this is the prison season. This is when we're going to get to see the governor. There's so much good stuff in the books with Michonne. I can't wait. And then it's like, of course, you're going to spread the prison out a little bit. You know, if they could spread 10 pages of the farm in the comic book into an entire season, they can spread the prison out pretty far.
Well, the prison was 2 seasons, right?
Yeah.
3 and 4?
Yeah, 3 and 4.
I think I got off at 4.
Okay.
Like, I think I watched all 3 and I was like, I didn't like this season. But I was like...
Bad governor.
Bad. Mainly because I didn't like the governor. Yeah. And then... Because, I mean, I read the comics, and that whole prison governor stuff was, like, some of the best stuff in the comics, for sure. And then it's just like, that sucked. And then I was like, all right, I'll give season 4 one more shot. And I think I got, like, 4 episodes in. I was like, no, this is bad. And I think I just watched, like, the highlights of, like, the war at the prison and stuff like that. And I'm like, okay, well, who cares?
Yeah, every season has their highs and lows. And they still kept
him around and did, like, weird stuff with his, like, daughter and shit or something.
Well, not his daughter. He, like... After he's defeated, he kind of wanders off and gets taken in by another group, and he kind of radicalizes them to attack the prison again.
Yeah, don't care.
Yeah, highs and lows. Well, thanks everyone for joining us in the Whirlpool. If you'd like to get in touch with us, we're at WRPLpodcast@gmail.com and at WRPL Podcast on Twitter. Let us know what you're consuming. How'd you like Rick and Morty? Let us know. Until next time, I'm Ben.
I'm Steve.
Goodbye, everybody.